Given this context, it's quite likely that Sir Henry Cobham would instruct his servants to work as infiltrators and to act as the eyes and ears on the ground. Was Dowland instructed to deliver letters, messages, or listen to conversations and report back? Given his circumstances, I'd probably say yes. This would then make sense of the next twist of fate in Dowland's life. A stark reminder of the brutality of these times comes again from a small shard of evidence. It takes the form of a petition written to Sir Edward Stafford, who succeeded Henry Cobham as the English ambassador in 1583. The letter is a plea for mercy written by a William Wardour on behalf of a group of English merchants. They were men condemned to the galleys. They have been detained in prison these 7 weeks in most miserable captivity, having received punishment by whipping twice about the town of Newhaven, and so conveyed about the country towards the galleys, there to remain until the time of their death. Dowland's name is mentioned amongst this group of men. How did this happen? Things seem to be going so well. Dowland was mixing with Catholics in France. He mentions this in his Robert Cecil letter. I was in France, servant to Sir Henry Cobham, who was ambassador for the Queen's Majesty, and lay in Paris, where I fell acquainted with one Smith, a priest, and one Morgan, sometimes of Her Majesty's Chapel, and one Vestigan, who broke out of England after being apprehended, and one Morris, a Welshman, that was our porter. Richard Vestigan was a known Catholic and an exile in France. He'd written a book in 1582 about the Catholic martyr Edmund Campion. Campion had been hung, drawn and quartered 2 years earlier for also writing a book called Campion's Brag, a battle cry to English Catholic priests to show defiance in the face of persecution and to minister their faith. As for the other three, not much is known of Smith, who I'd have thought is likely to be a Catholic priest if he was hanging out with Vestigan. Morgan and Morris were probably musicians, colleagues, maybe students of Dowland's. Petition for mercy continues. Whereas your good lordship did send your favourable charity by your servant John Dowland. It seems Dowland was imprisoned but had been released. When? We're not sure. It seems that Stafford had pulled levers and Dowland was no longer in jeopardy. We know Dowland regretted this time, once again referring to the Cecil letter. These men thrust many idle toys into my head of religion, saying the Papists was the truth and ours in England all false. But I, being but young, their fair words overreached me, and I believed them. Here, the story stops. How he got himself into that situation is a mystery. How long he was imprisoned for is unknown. Was he badly treated? Was it all a mistake? There are just too many question marks. Let me know if you have further thoughts. I'd love to be able to fill in a few gaps here. Dowland was either dismissed from his post in France for being a Catholic or was required to return to England. Maybe he just was not important enough to worry about. Maybe, like William Byrd and Thomas Tallis, his Catholic sympathies were tolerated. Nobody knows for sure. We know he returned to England in 1583, and the threads of his life continue with his time at Christ Church, Oxford. A reflective sentiment by Dowland can be found in the Cecil letter, which I think portrays much about Dowland's own personal view of the world at this time. Within 2 years after I came into England, where I saw men of that faction condemned and executed, which I thought was great injustice, taking religion for the only cause. Was John Dowland a spy? In terms of counterintelligence gathering, he wasn't a spy in the same way as William Wade or Thomas Phillips, but he was moving in circles that may have led him to perform small errands that were part of the complex world of espionage. Being even a minor cog in the role of intelligence gathering could have resulted in him being drawn into situations that he, as a young man of 19, had naively stumbled into. These men thrust many idle toys into my head of religion. Either way, this was not to be the last brush with danger that Dowland experienced. In the next John Dowland diary, I shall be sharing with you why Dowland wept. I got me by myself and wept heartily to see my fortune so hard. The journey continues. Until next time.